You're listening to Success by 25. Here, it's all about self-awareness, self-discipline, and personal growth. Today's topic is recognize yourself, discover yourself, rely on yourself. Every young person faces the same crossroads. You grow up surrounded by opinions, by silent rules about how you should look, speak, succeed, and belong. The world is loud with expectations. If you try to please everyone, you lose your own direction. If you chase validation, you become a reflection, not a person. At first, you think the goal is to fit in. You want to be accepted, to be liked, to avoid standing out. You hide your doubts. You say what others want to hear. You silence your real questions because you're afraid of being judged. But every time you deny your own truth to keep the peace, something inside you grows restless. The maze of emotions is built out of fear of being left out, fear of disappointing someone, fear of not measuring up. Every choice feels like a test. Am I enough? Will they approve? Will I regret being honest? But the harder you try to mold yourself to fit, the more you lose touch with who you really are. What if you stopped asking what others expect and started asking what you actually want? What would you say if you could drop the mask for one day? Would you still follow the same path? Or would you take a risk for something you actually believe in? This is the beginning of self-recognition, to look at yourself in the mirror and admit what you see. Not what you wish you were, not what others need you to be, but what's honestly there. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's disappointing, sometimes it's humbling, but it's the only place you can build from. Recognize yourself, not your achievements, not your status, but the thoughts and feelings you usually ignore. Ask yourself, where am I faking it? Where am I just following the crowd? Where am I afraid to stand alone? There will be voices in your head-old messages. From parents, teachers, friends, culture, you hear them every time you try to make a real decision. Don't disappoint us. Don't embarrass yourself. Who do you think you are? If you let those voices rule your choices, you'll never discover who you are apart from them. Discovery is an act of courage. It means letting yourself admit what excites you, what angers you, what you love and hate and fear, even if those feelings aren't acceptable to everyone else. It means you stop pretending. You ask yourself hard questions. What do I want if no one else is watching? What do I believe in when it's inconvenient? Who am I when I'm not trying to impress anyone? The process isn't always clear or quick. You will second guess yourself. You will feel lonely sometimes. But every honest answer makes you stronger. Every time you speak up for yourself, you get a little closer to your real life. To truly recognize yourself, you have to face discomfort. You need to question why you make certain choices. Are you living by your own values, or are you just repeating what you've been taught? Sometimes you'll realize you've been acting out of fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of disappointing your parents, fear of being called different or difficult. That's normal. Everyone has these fears, but not everyone is honest about them. Sit with these fears instead of running from them. Ask yourself, what's the worst that happens if I let people down? If I speak my mind, who will actually walk away? And does their opinion really matter? When you break these questions down, you start to see that many of your fears are bigger in your imagination than they are in reality. This is how you begin to escape the maze. You recognize the walls are not always real. The only way out is through honesty. Sometimes that honesty means admitting you're scared. Sometimes it means admitting you want something different than your friends, your family, or your culture. That doesn't make you selfish or broken. It means you're awake. As you discover yourself, you'll notice old patterns. You catch yourself saying yes when you mean no. You avoid conflict. You shrink yourself to keep the peace. Notice these moments without judgment. Don't beat yourself up. Just pay attention. Each time you notice, you have a choice. Continue as before, or do something different. Transformation begins here. Real change starts with small, step-zone, honest conversation, one boundary set, one moment where you refuse to lie about what you want. You will feel exposed at first. That's part of growing. Growth never happens in comfort. Independence is built in the moments when you stand up for your truth, even if your voice shakes. Ask yourself, what is the price I'm paying to be accepted? How much of myself am I giving up to avoid being alone? When you put your answers into words, you might be shocked at the cost. Real independence begins when you decide your truth is worth more than fitting in. Remember, relying on yourself is not the same as shutting everyone out. It means you know who you are, so you don't let others tell you who you should be. You're willing to listen, to learn, to change your mind when it makes sense, but you don't bend just to avoid conflict or win approval. With each step, you'll feel stronger. Fear turns into freedom. You realize you can survive criticism, you can handle disappointment, you're not as fragile as you thought. The more you rely on your own judgment, the less power others have to control your emotions or your future. This journey isn't easy. There will be days when you feel like you're going in circles, doubting yourself, questioning every decision. You'll see others who seem to fit in effortlessly, and you might envy how comfortable they look. But remember, most people are struggling quietly. The difference is that you're choosing to face your truth instead of hiding from it. Inner dialogue becomes your companion. When you catch yourself wanting to please someone, pause and ask, am I doing this because I believe in it or just to keep someone happy? When you want to give up and return to old habits, remind yourself why you started, because the pain of living a fake life is worse than the fear of being real. Self-discovery is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. You'll find strengths you never saw before, but you'll also have to accept flaws, limits, and wounds. Growth is slow, sometimes frustrating. You may lose people who can't handle your truth, but the relationships that remain will be real, built on respect, not pretense. You will have to let go of the idea that you can control what others think. You can't. No matter how hard you try, some people will never understand or approve of your choices. That's not a failure. It's a sign that you're finally taking ownership of your own life. With each honest decision, you build confidence. You start to see that your worth isn't measured by outside approval. The world will always have opinions, sometimes loud, sometimes cruel, sometimes well-meaning, but misguided. You don't need to fight everyone, but you do need to stay true to yourself. Ask yourself, if I lost all my followers, my reputation, my network, would I still be proud of how I lived? That's the real measure of self-worth. The people who matter most are the ones who value your truth, not your image. Turning fear into independence is a process. It's built step by step. Each time you say no to something that's wrong for you, each time you say yes to something that matters, you build a new foundation. This isn't arrogance or selfishness. It's self-respect. Relying on yourself doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means trusting your ability to face life's challenges, knowing you have the strength to stand alone if you need to. You can accept help, learn from others, and still be your own person. Over time, you'll notice a change. The opinions of others lose their hold on you. You stop second-guessing yourself. You feel lighter, more focused, and more at peace with your decision 7 when things don't go as planned. There will be setbacks. Sometimes you'll slip back into old patterns, trying to fit in or stay silent to avoid conflict. That's human. Progress is not always a straight line. The important thing is that you notice it each time you catch yourself. You become more aware, and awareness is the seed of change. When you recognize yourself, you no longer need to compare your journey with anyone else's. The pressure to compete fades. You stop chasing someone else's definition of success. You focus instead on becoming the best version of yourself, not perfect, but honest, resilient, and true to your core values. You'll also become more compassionate, not just toward yourself, but toward others. You realize that everyone is struggling in their own way. People who judge or criticize are often running from their own insecurities. Instead of being defensive, you can be understanding. This doesn't mean you accept disrespect or let others walk over you. It means you choose your battles wisely and refuse to carry unnecessary bitterness. The biggest reward of this journey is peace of mind. When you know yourself, when you trust yourself, you feel more grounded in every situation. You can handle uncertainty because you have something solid inside you, your own sense of right and wrong, your own reasons for living. With self-awareness comes freedom. You're no longer a prisoner of trends, social approval, or the fear of being left behind. You can adapt and grow, but you won't lose yourself trying to fit in. The people who are meant to be in your life will stay because of who you truly are, not because of a role you play. In the end, life is not about impressing anyone or proving yourself to the world. It's about knowing, discovering, and trusting yourself enough to live with purpose, even when it's hard. It's about making choices you can stand behind, no matter who's watching or what's popular. So ask yourself every day, am I being real? Am I living by my own truth? Or am I just surviving in someone else's story? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for everything to be easy. Start now. Recognize yourself, discover yourself, rely on yourself. That is the beginning of real independence, the foundation of a life with no regret, and the only way to truly succeed by 25 or any age. Thanks for spending your time on this video. If you found it useful, share it and let me know in the comments what topics you want to dive into next. I read every comment. See you in the next video.